A brazen robbery attempt at a Toronto jewelry store. This time, a family was inside as a pickup truck ran repeatedly into the storefront. Good evening. The owner of the Scarborough store is speaking out about the terrifying ordeal, saying this isn't the first time their store was targeted.
Video obtained by CTV News captures the shocking moment the truck slammed into the business. CTV's Allison Hurst has spoken with the store owner today and joins us now live with more. Allison.
The owners tell us that they had just closing up for the night. They had closed the blinds. They still had one customer inside along with their 3 kids, a 13-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 10-year-old. And that's when the pickup truck ran the front of their store and they all rushed out the back. A truck slams into a jewelry store trying to bust through the wall.
Go inside, go inside.
Dash cam footage shows 3 people wearing dark clothes coming around the building as the truck barrels into the store. The terrifying moments playing out in Scarborough while the owners, their 3 kids and a customer were inside.
We were scared, right? Like, oh my God, like, again, they're trying to break into our store. My husband, we all freaked out. The kids and the customers were all like scared.
The owner asked that we not show their faces because this has happened before. On February 7th, someone tried to break in the same way.
This is unacceptable, honestly, to run a business and have to daily worry about if someone's going to, drive in.
It happened around 6:30 last night. Sabish Nada, who owns the business next door, heard the commotion.
I just heard a big bang, and I don't want to come out or anything, so I just seen my cameras. I seen a vehicle just back up into the jewelry store right there.
He says there were 5 suspects trying to get inside.
I seen a garbage bag, right? Yeah, that came out of the vehicle, and I seen a big hammer. Like almost like a commercialized used hammer.
The suspects did not get in, so they abandoned the truck, ran to a white sedan, got in and drove away. The owner says it was all over in minutes.
We already have like top-notch security cameras. We have grills. We have everything inside. It's just the outside. They just need to put them, those boulders. And I'm just terrified for my kids. The future is just like we have to live in constant fear.
Fear that their store will be targeted again, and next time, someone could get hurt. Toronto police say this is still an active investigation, that no one was injured and nothing was taken. The suspects remain at large. Reporting live, I'm Allison Hurst. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Allison. A teen charged with manslaughter in a deadly group attack on a homeless man more than 2 years ago has pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of assault. The girl was set to face trial for the death of 59-year-old Kenneth Lee. He was attacked by a group of teenagers in December of 2022. A total of 8 girls were arrested and charged with second-degree murder. 5 have previously pleaded guilty to lesser charges. A verdict is expected at the end of May for a 6th girl who was tried by a judge, with closing submissions in that trial yesterday. The teen who pleaded guilty today will be sentenced at a later date.
Thousands of workers in Oshawa rely on production of Chevy Silverado trucks for a job.
And there are concerns tonight after General Motors announced it's ramping up production of some light-duty trucks in the U.S., which could reduce demand from Canada. CTV Sean Lee Thong is in Oshawa tonight and joins us with reaction. Sean.
Well, Nathan and Michelle, there certainly is concern here because we know the Chevy Silverado is, of course, made in Oshawa and in the United States, and it's also made in Mexico. And then there is news coming out of the United States today that in the Fort Wayne, Indiana plant, they will be adding between 225 and 250 employees. Now, we reached out to GM Canada for a statement, and they did send us one saying General Motors will be making operational adjustments at the Fort Wayne assembly, including hiring temporary employees to support current manufacturing and business needs. We continuously update and revise production schedules as part of our standard process of evaluating and aligning to manage vehicle inventory, saying that so far nothing is being touched, at least in Canada and in Mexico. But we do know that President Donald Trump, with his tariffs that were imposed just a few days ago, had said that he wanted production to come to the United States, and there is a fear of that. Now, we reached out to Unifor also for a statement. Their national president sent us one saying Oshawa Assembly Plant continues to operate at current production levels. Unifor will continue continue to be engaged with General Motors and fully expects all automakers to maintain their Canadian footprints. Unifor will continue to commit the full resources of the union at the local and national levels to take action to protect Canadian jobs. And that comes from Unifor National President Lana Payne. Now, a little while ago, we spoke to Hugh Williams, who's from the Canadian Auto Dealers Association. He explained just how this works with the tariffs, because as we know, it's not just a flat 25%, but it's based on how much of the automobile is actually made in Canada or in the United States. But first, Premier Doug Ford was asked the question today about supporting the auto dealers and the auto workers, and here's what he had to say.
We're going to support our workers. We're going to protect our workers, but we buy as many cars as we sell. You know, this whole tariff nonsense with Canada is the craziest thing I've ever seen.
So an example is if you have a Silverado that's built here in Ontario, it's got a 60% roughly U.S. component into it. When it goes across the border, that 25% is only going to apply to the 40% that is built in Canada. So you effectively end up with around about a 12-point tariff. Again, not ideal, but it's not going to have the kind of draconian impact that a 25% across the board would have.
Now, we did speak to some auto workers in the area, and they said that they've actually been ordered by the company not to talk to us. But one of them did say that there is a slight distinction to be made here, and that the Chevy Silverado heavy duty is actually made here in Oshawa, but the changes that are being proposed are to the Chevy Silverado light duty. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leithong. Michelle, send it back to you.
Thank you, Sean. Meanwhile, a second day of dramatic drops on the stock markets, the worst seen in years. Still ahead, investments and retirement plans taking a hit for Americans and Canadians alike.
But first, we turn to the latest in the cleanup after last weekend's ice storms. It may be hard to believe, but there are still more than 100,000 customers without power.
But they are being reassured today by the province that help is on the way. Premier Doug Ford was in Orillia surveying some of the hardest hit areas. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris reports.
Hydro crews have been at it around the clock, and yet it's been 6 days of disaster-zone streets with down hydro poles, impassable roads, and life in the dark and cold with no power.
One generator already packed it in. I ended up shopping around for another one. I had to drive all the way to Toronto to get a generator.
For some, the process of cleaning up a tangle of branches has begun.
Power came on yesterday afternoon. It's been a long go. A lot of flooded basements and a lot of damage.
Hydro One says some 2 million people have already had their power restored. But there's a ways to go after a storm the likes of which Ontario hasn't seen in a quarter century.
We had an ice storm, then we had another ice storm, then our sanitation plant got hit by lightning. I mean, it makes this stuff up.
The Premier visited Orillia to thank volunteers at a warming center and hydro workers. Doug Ford saw the scope of what those workers face.
All of those purple pins are damage to the system.
To the tens of thousands of people without power represented by those arrows on a map.
We're going to keep going around the clock until we get everyone up and running.
Hydro One hopes to restore power to most homes and businesses by the end of the weekend.
There will be some people that are going to go into next week. Small rural people or communities or homes down isolated roads, it's going to take a long time.
Some 4,000 hydro workers are on the case, not just from Hydro One, but Toronto Hydro and other parts of Canada too.
Premier has leveraged resources from New Brunswick as far away as Saskatchewan. Hydro-Quebec has been an amazing value add. They're on the ground as we speak.
The damage of this storm likely to be monumental.
It'd be in the hundreds of millions, if not a billion, if you add up every single item.
Even when all the power is restored, the work is far from over.
We're going to have likely a month or two of cleanup afterwards, but our roads crew has been working nonstop.
Though there is a vow to look to do better for whenever the next disaster hits.
We have to look at continuous improvement all the time to improve on our response, but you know, these people are working hard, really, really hard.
Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
Time now for a check on the forecast. Here's a live shot of the city. Clouds have moved in, but it's still not a bad-looking Friday, not too chilly. We do expect some rain tomorrow morning, but the weekend, thankfully, is not a washout. Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at the current conditions. Lindsay.
Nathan, we're not nearly as concerned about the weather this weekend as we were last. And today was a very pleasant end to what has been a week of pretty wild weather once again. Single-digit temperatures around the Golden Horseshoe right now. We did make it to a high of 11 today in Toronto. We've got winds coming out of the southwest, much calmer than they were yesterday as well. A little bit cooler in Toronto Island, 5 degrees compared to 7 at Pearson right now, thanks in part to those winds. And we have seen an increase in cloud cover. This ahead of some active weather that, yes, is going to roll in for tomorrow. So it's a bit of a soggy start to the weekend with rain beginning overnight tonight. We're going to finish it off with sun and then a cool down for next week. A full look at your 7-day forecast is coming up. For now, Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Now to Ajax in a show of support for the Muslim community.
A community healing town hall is being held after a woman wearing a hijab was attacked in a local library earlier this month. CTV's Mike Walker joins us now live from tonight's event that is just getting underway. Mike.
Well, Michelle and Nathan, this attack has rocked and devastated the local Muslim community here in Ajax, and we're hearing there are concerns about safety being in public places like this library that we're inside right now. So what's happening inside the council chambers right now are local leaders, community groups, the police chief. They are addressing the Muslim community, showing their support in what, as you mentioned, is being described as a community healing event. Now, it was back on March 22nd that a Muslim woman came to the main library branch to study when police say she was assaulted by another woman in what investigators have described as an unprovoked attack. They said profanities were yelled at the woman, and at one point the suspect tried to set her hijab on fire. Now, police have charged the 25-year-old Ajax woman with 2 counts of assault in connection with this incident. So what's happening right now inside the council chambers, as I mentioned, the police chief, the deputy mayor, as well as members of the Muslim Women of Durham region and the National Council of Canadian Muslims are having some discussions with members of the Muslim community. I spoke with Ajax deputy mayor a few moments ago. Here's more from him.
The community is still in turmoil. They're still feeling the repercussions. There's absolutely a scar across not only the Muslim community, but the town of Ajax. You know, like, we're all horrified by what happened. So this community healing event is just a way for us to get some closure on it, to find strength in community, and to let the Muslim community know that we absolutely support them.
Now, the town says the goal of tonight's event is fostering unity and understanding and ensuring everyone feels safe and respected. Reporting live in Ajax, I'm Mike Walker. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. Toronto police are out with a new report showing the ongoing costs of securing protests to do with the Israel-Hamas war. The figures from police show they spent nearly $20 million throughout 2024 responding to those demonstrations and to carry out what they call community outreach within the city's Jewish and Muslim communities. The report says officers responded to more than 2,000 unplanned events last year, and more than half were associated with Project Resolute. That's the name for the police effort launched in the wake of the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel. Chief Myron Demkew says Toronto police committed a significant number of resources to address an alarming surge in anti-Semitic and Islamophobic hate crimes after that date.
Federal party leaders were in Quebec today with conservatives outlining policies to combat intimate partner violence.
The NDP taking aim at the Liberal leader on a day when they pledged a funding boost for CBC Radio-Canada. CTV's Kamal Karamali has the latest.
Back on the campaign trail in Montreal, Liberal leader Mark Carney announced millions in funding for the public broadcaster.
We will not only increase CBC Radio-Canada's funding by $150 million, but we will also make this funding statutory, meaning that Parliament as a whole will need to approve any future changes to its funding.
But it was where his money went while he was chair of an investment firm that became a focal point.
It looks like just plain tax avoidance.
Their arrangements follow the rules, including the tax rules of this country, other countries.
The NDP, also in Montreal, had their crosshairs on Carney's past today, claiming while the Liberal leader was chair of the global investment giant Brookfield, it was using offshore accounts in Bermuda to avoid billions of dollars in taxes.
We've got large corporations in Canada that purposely continue to avoid paying their fair share by using tax havens and other loopholes.
The NDP leader promising to put a stop to the practice for Canadian companies, while the NDP and Liberals sparred. The Conservative leader choosing to focus his fight against intimate partner violence, requiring stricter bail conditions and harsher penalties for anyone accused of assaulting an intimate partner.
We'll create a new criminal offense for assault of an intimate partner. This will deliver tougher sentences for those who do domestic violence.
But the Liberals facing more controversy today, Carney telling reporters that a candidate in the newly formed riding of Edmonton Gateway is no longer in the running, but would not confirm why. Kamal Karamali, CTV News, Toronto.
The latest Nanos polling for CTV and the Globe and Mail shows the Liberals in the lead with 45.5% support. They remained ahead of the Conservatives, who were at 35.9%. The NDP climbed to 9.4%, with the Bloc Québécois at 5.2%, the Greens at 2.2%, and the People's Party at 1.4%. Pollster Nick Nanos says lower support for smaller parties is impacting the race for first place.
We have to remember, at 36% for the Conservatives, Stephen Harper won some elections at 36%. So Pierre Poilievre's thinking 36. We used to win under 36, as in the Conservative we, right? And he's looking at it. It's not good enough right now because the NDP are so low, the Bloc are so low, and the Green Party are so low.
When it comes to who Canadians would like to see as Prime Minister, Liberal leader Mark Carney is 20 points ahead with more than 50.9% support, while Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre slid to 30.9%. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh stable in this poll at 4.7%. And these Nanos polls show support among decided voters from more than 1,200 people who were surveyed. They are considered accurate within 2.8 percentage points, 19 times out of 20.
If you need to top up the tank, experts say it may be wise to hold off if you can.
As the price of oil dips on the stock market, the cost at the pump is again due to drop tomorrow. CTV's John Musselman reports.
If you can hold off filling up your gas tank, it might be worth it to wait until tomorrow. Industry analysts say gas prices will be dropping nearly 10 cents.
We are going to see a net decrease here in the GTA right across the province. In fact, most of the country of at least 10 cents a litre, and then that'll be followed up by another change of a further drop come Sunday.
At this gas station in Etobicoke, prices were hovering around $1.39 a litre. People we spoke to today needed the gas, saying they couldn't wait, but they welcomed the price cut for the next visit at the pumps.
I really enjoyed it. At least now I can afford to put a full tank in my car.
Save a few bucks.
Yeah, and save a few bucks, yeah.
It's very good. I think it's very exciting and a nice little optimistic welcome break of everything else going up.
58 the last time, and this is 139, and I need gas.
McTagg says a lot of this is connected to energy markets responding to the tariff issue, which saw oil prices drop.
The tariffs, there's an expectation that the economy of both the United States and Canada will slow down. So as a result, demand will drop, which means that we're looking at something called the futures market, basically looking at the future and saying it doesn't look really good. And so we don't think the value of oil, gasoline, diesel should be where it is. And that's why they're dropping the prices dramatically as they are.
Still, some people filling up today remain skeptical the prices will stay low.
They're not going down enough, and they'll just creep right back up. So keep waiting.
But what are they going to get us on next? Groceries?
Gas prices in the region had already taken a 20% decline after the federal government removed the consumer carbon tax on April the 1st. John Musselman, CTV News.
Canada's unemployment rate ticked higher last month as the labor market shed tens of thousands of jobs. Statistics Canada says 33,000 jobs were lost in March, the biggest slide since January 2022. The unemployment rate rose to 6.7%. That's up from 6.6% in February. TD Bank senior economist James Orlando says the impact of U.S. tariffs appears to be working its way through the economy. The job losses were led by the wholesale and retail trade sector and the information culture and recreation sector.
It's been another day of trade-related turmoil on global financial markets.
The U.S. president has compared this week's sweeping tariffs to surgery on the American economy, but critics say They've caused real damage, and the impacts are just getting started. The major U.S. stock indexes dropped between 5.5% and 6% today, including the S&P 500, the Dow Jones, and the NASDAQ. They all suffered their biggest weekly losses since 2020. The Wall Street Journal calculated that more than $6 trillion was erased from the U.S. market over the past 2 days. The TSX didn't fare much better, with a drop of 4.6% today. The nosedive comes as countries put up their own trade barriers in response to Washington's actions. China said it is ready to impose its own 34% levy on all U.S. imports starting next week. The U.S. Federal Reserve says Americans won't escape the economic fallout.
We have stressed that it will be very difficult to assess the likely economic effects of higher tariffs until there is greater certainty about the details, such as what will be tariffed, at what level, and for what duration, and the extent of any retaliation from our trading partners. While uncertainty remains elevated, it is now becoming clear that tariff increases will be significantly larger than expected. And the same is likely to be true of the economic effects, which will include higher inflation and slower growth.
Analysts have taken Jerome Powell's comments to mean interest rate cuts are not imminent south of the border, as the way forward for the economy remains uncertain. Meantime, a meeting of NATO foreign ministers wrapped up in Brussels, and the U.S. Secretary of State defended Washington's moves on trade.
Businesses around the world, including in trade and global trade, they just need to know what the rules are. Once they know what the rules are, they will adjust to those rules. So I don't think it's fair to say economies are crashing. Markets are crashing because markets are based on the stock value of companies who today are embedded in modes of production that are bad for the United States. We have to be a country that thinks we're the largest consumer market in the world, and yet the only thing we export is services. And we need to stop that. We need to get back to a time where we're a country that can make things, and to do that, we have to reset the global order of trade.
Rubio rejected claims the economic damage caused will only make it harder for NATO members to reach higher defense spending targets demanded by the U.S.
There's a growing death toll from Israeli strikes in Gaza today as troops ramp up their offensive against Hamas militants. The escalating violence comes after the collapse of a ceasefire last month. Hospital staff say at least 17 Palestinians were killed after an airstrike hit the southern city of Khan Yunis. Israel says it's expanding efforts to crush Hamas and free hostages being held by militants by once again seizing control of more territory in Gaza. Hamas says it'll only agree to a lasting ceasefire and it won't lay down its arms.
Months after South Korea's president shocked the world by declaring martial law, the country's constitutional court has voted to permanently remove him from office. Opponents of Yoon Suk-yeol celebrated when the ruling was announced, while his supporters greeted the news with dismay. Yoon was impeached by lawmakers in December over his short-lived military takeover. A snap election to vote for his replacement will be held on June 3rd.
Across the border, police are sharing dramatic images of a truck crash into the Niagara Gorge that left a man with non-life-threatening injuries. Take a look at this. On Wednesday night, New York State Police say they were called to the scene of this crash in the city of Niagara Falls. They later determined a 42-year-old man had driven his vehicle through a fence where it plunged down a cliff before coming to rest at the bottom of the gorge. The driver walked away from the scene and was treated in a local hospital. Nobody else was hurt, and the investigation is ongoing.
Coming up, applications denied at an alarming rate. Canadians trying to bring a spouse into the country left in limbo by an immigration reunification program designed to help. CTV News investigates.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up, it's Feedback Friday. More viewers say they've had trouble with tenants not paying the rent. More people feel AirPods should be allowed to be used as hearing aids. And others say they've made mistakes paying bills online and been unable to get their money back. Feedback Friday is just ahead.
So you will want the umbrella for tomorrow morning. In fact, that's when the rain is expected to be heaviest. Then we will taper off to some showers for Saturday afternoon. Cold air is returning for next week. In fact, there's one day where we could get a little bit of measurable snow. There's another day where we're going to struggle to climb past the freezing mark. A full look at your 7-day forecast is coming up. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
We've had a lot of reaction to our recent consumer stories on incorrect billing practices and alternatives to expensive hearing aids.
And following our report on a landlord-tenant dispute, other landlords say they're also having problems with people who won't pay the rent. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Nathan and Michelle. A landlord contacted us after trying to evict a tenant 3 times for non-payment of rent, but the tenant is still allowed to stay in his home. Other landlords say some tenants are abusing the system and living in their homes for free. Mooney Chad Latchman-Rin told us he has tenants that won't pay the rent or move out. He's been before the Ontario Landlord and Tenant Board to evict them 3 times. Now the case is before the courts, and while it is, the tenants say they don't have to pay rent. He's currently owed $25,000.
I give up. I want to get out of it.
Hyder wrote, I lost $50,000 to a professional tenant who didn't pay rent after the first and last month's deposit. Scammers are exploiting the system. Portia Choi discovered she'd been charged a commercial rate on her gas bill for over 7 years. The excess charges came to $4,500. When she asked Enbridge for a refund, she was told the most she could get back was 2 years of overpayments.
That is totally not right and unfair.
With CTV's help, she got a full refund, but Gianna wrote, Enbridge incorrectly billed me for 6 years. After seeing your story, I knew they could only go back 2 years, so my bill dropped from $6,000 to $1,000. Thanks, CTV. While most people use Apple AirPods to listen to music, the latest models, the Apple AirPods Pro 2, can also work like a traditional hearing aid. The technology is allowed in over 100 countries, but not in Canada, because hearing aids can only be prescribed by audiologists and physicians.
I kind of felt like I got ripped off.
Andrea told us, I went for a hearing test and was quoted $6,800 for hearing aids. The Apple AirPod Pro 2 would be a low-cost option, which needs to be approved. Naomi Khan recently paid her electricity bill of $84.72, but she accidentally left out the decimal point and paid more than $8,000. Weeks later, she still couldn't get her money back.
No one has reached out to me.
Chair wrote, mistakes happen. If a company can't return funds in 48 hours, they should be charged a non-reversal fee. And other viewers told us they accidentally overpaid phone bills, credit card bills, and hydro bills. Some were able to get their money back within days, but others said it did take weeks and a lot of hassles to get their money returned. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Well, here we are. We have arrived at the very first weekend in April, and temperature-wise, it's not looking too bad at all, although a little unsettled weather.
Yeah, but it's comfortable, light jacket, no need for the hat and gloves. I'll take that. The rain that we're going to get is not going to ruin the whole weekend either.
It's not. These are maybe the April showers that we like to talk about from time to time, although they could be a little bit heavy tomorrow morning. But again, it's not going to be a washout of a day. And we're going to see a return to some bright skies heading into the day on Sunday. Bit of a cool down after that, but we won't worry about that quite yet. We've also been keeping you up to speed on the active weather that's been happening stateside. Here's a look at, well, what happened yesterday across the U.S. Midwest. Another tornado touching down, this time in Tennessee. It's been very active in states like Arkansas as well as Missouri. And this is day 3 of an active weather outbreak in this part of North America. Not just tornadoes that are a concern, but flooding rains. And this is all associated with the same system that's going to be impacting us here at home. So there's a look at the current satellite and radar across the U.S. And we're now starting to see those showers creep into southwestern Ontario. Again, courtesy of the same series of lows. Now, we're not anticipating the same kind of severe weather here at home. There is a slight risk of a thunderstorm across extreme southwest Ontario. The biggest concern for us is going to be rainfall, and really there's not nearly as much in the forecast as what we experienced earlier this week, maybe 10 to 20 millimeters, depending on where you're joining us from. This all gets going overnight tonight. We've seen the cloud cover, then the wet weather begins. Waking up Saturday morning, this is when it's at its heaviest and most widespread. You'll notice, though, that it clears out. We'll get a bit of a break from the rain in the afternoon. Cloud cover sticks around, though. And then a second push of moisture as we make our way into the evening hours. It's possible this is going to stay south of us here in the city of Toronto, but in any case, plan for the potential for wet weather, and you'll need your umbrella for Saturday night as well if you're joining us from Niagara region. There's the sunshine for Sunday. It is going to be a little bit cooler after a double-digit day tomorrow. And then look what's starting to creep in for Monday. Might get a few flurries or maybe even about a centimeter of snow. Right now, the temperature is 7 degrees in Toronto. We're forecasting an overnight low of +4. Not bad. Daytime highs tomorrow likely to be in the double digits around the Golden Horseshoe. 12 for you in Vaughan, as well as Oakville, 11 in Orangeville. Might slip into single-digit territory around Haliburton, for example. And yes, Saturday is unsettled. Sunday, we're at about 8 degrees for the high. Similar high for Monday, but overnight we slip to around -5 degrees. Again, that's the day that we could maybe pick up a centimeter of snow. Chance of flurries into Tuesday. Forecast daytime high 0. That's it. We'll see a slow rebound as we make our way through the middle of next week, with a few showers returning next Thursday, Friday. That's the weather for now. Nathan, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Immigration lawyers say Canadians trying to move their spouses into the country are having their visa applications denied at an alarming rate. CTV's Adrian Gabriel has the story of one couple who says the system has left them in a potentially deadly situation.
It's been 5 years of this, and all I want is just to settle down at home with my husband.
Cape Bretoner John Charles McNeil first met his common-law spouse on an online dating app in December 2017, though the future love of his life lived in Iran and was just beginning his mandatory 2-year military service. For the next 24 months, they only connected virtually until they each traveled to Istanbul in 2019.
The elevator opened, and the first words he said to me were, "Oh my God, you're real."
You get emotional remembering the first time you saw him when the elevator doors opened.
Yeah.
CTV News is protecting the identity of McNeil's spouse. The couple are currently in Bangkok, where they've been waiting for months to have their permanent resident application reviewed there at the embassy by Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada. The visa allowing McNeil's husband to stay in Thailand expires on April 8th. If he's forced to return to Iran, their same-sex relationship could lead to him being persecuted.
His life's in danger.
In 2022, the couple submitted 2 visa applications to come to Canada under the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act. Both requests were denied. In May 2023, Immigration Canada launched the Family Reunification Program that claimed to help foreign spouses receive a Canadian visa. Under that program, the couple filed a new visa application in March of 2024. Their request was denied again. The IRCC said they weren't satisfied that McNeil's Iranian husband would leave Canada once his visa expires. Their immigration lawyer believes the couple are being wrongly penalized by a government policy that's meant to bring them together.
The whole reason they created this was for people in this exact scenario, to allow people who are sponsoring their spouse to have their spouse join them in Canada to wait for their PR to come through.
Lawyers across Canada are reporting similar refusals by the IRCC. In an email, Immigration Canada told CTV News that the IRCC in Bangkok are reviewing the couple's eligibility and will invite them to an interview if required. McNeil's MP in Cape Breton has even written the immigration minister a letter vouching for the couple. But with their visa in Thailand expiring, time is in short supply.
All I want in this world is just to settle down in Cape Breton and have our children go to the same elementary school that I went to.
We've asked the IRCC if there's anything that can be done to expedite the couple's case at the Canadian Embassy in Bangkok. We're still waiting for a reply. Adrian Gabriel, CTV News, Toronto.
There are a few transit disruptions to keep in mind this weekend. On Line 1, Young University, there will be no service Saturday and Sunday between Shepherd West Station and Lawrence West Station. And on Line 2, there will be no service between Warden and Kennedy stations. Both closures are because of planned track work. Shuttle buses will be running along with extra Wheel-Trans vehicles.
Also tonight, Minecraft takes a dig at the box office. The movie, based on the popular children's video game, is off to a record-breaking start. We check out the new game in town after the break.
An estimated 3 to 5% of Canada's population suffers from eczema.
And while there are a range of treatments available, there's now a new one which is steroid-free. Our health reporter Pauline Chan has the details.
Atopic dermatitis, or eczema, affects thousands of Canadians, some as young as 6 weeks of age.
They get inflammatory condition with itching and redness and scaling, can present lots of ways across the skin spectrum.
And the scratching can create scarring, thickening of the skin, or even bleeding.
It increases the risk of secondary infections, and we'll see that quite commonly with bacterial, viral, yeast, or fungal secondary infections.
Dr. Sam Hanna says the effects are not just physical.
I'll often ask about sleep disturbance from itch as a significant feature of the condition. And then, of course, it impacts on quality of your life in terms of social interactions and intimate relationships and work interactions and things like that.
In the past, steroidal topical ointments have been successful, but they can have serious side effects like thinning of the skin. In more recent years, expensive biologics have been available for those with the most severe cases. There are also oral medications. And now a new cream has just been approved for patients aged 6 and up with moderate atopic dermatitis. Zoryve or roflumilast is used just once a day.
So novel mechanisms of action that aren't steroid, that are treating, that are going to be available or are available to help treat those patients with more limited skin involvement.
It's not a cure, and Dr. Hanna says some patients may need to use combinations of treatments, but it can go a long way towards helping patients control their symptoms. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
British actor and comedian Russell Brand has been charged for alleged sexual offenses dating back more than 20 years. Officials say the charges relate to 4 women and involve rape, sexual assault, and indecent assault. The alleged incidents occurred from 1999 to 2005. Brand has previously denied these allegations and today repeated his assertion that he never engaged in non-consensual activity. He is due to appear in court in May.
A new film adaptation of a popular video game franchise is set to dominate the weekend box office.
In the overworld, wow, anything you can dream about, you can create.
A Minecraft movie sees a group of adventurers pulled into the digital world of the block-based game. It got some big names in the cast, including Jason Momoa and Jack Black. Deadline reports is on track to bring in well north of $100 million this weekend, easily giving it the best opening of 2025 so far.
After the break, stock market turmoil as Trump's sweeping tariffs send shockwaves, spurring a major sell-off. We look at the numbers not seen since the pandemic and check in with how investors are doing.
Updating our top story, CTV News obtained dramatic footage of a brazen attempted robbery at a Scarborough jewelry store last night. Suspects rammed a pickup truck into the building near Morningside and Shepherd, but weren't able to get inside. The store's owners say this isn't the first time they've been targeted. Police say nobody was injured and they're investigating.
Canada's identity and institutions are under attack.
If you're worried about something that's not going to put an end to offshore tax havens, then you can vote for New Democrats.
We'll create a new criminal offense for assault of an intimate partner.
Federal party leaders were pounding the pavement on the campaign trail today, rolling out policy pledges and looking to shore up support in Quebec. Canadians head to the polls just over 3 weeks from now on April 28th.
We see the market tumbling trillions of dollars, unprecedented. Consumer confidence is down.
And Premier Doug Ford weighed in on the growing impact of U.S. tariffs on the economy and Canada's auto sector. This comes as General Motors announced it's ramping up production of some light-duty trucks in the U.S. that could reduce demand for vehicles from Canada, like the Chevy Silverado, which is produced in Oshawa.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video or breaking news, let us know.
In business, North American markets are still digesting the tariff announcement from Washington. It sent stocks nosediving today. B&M Bloomberg's Morella Fernandez has more.
China faces a markup of over 50% on its exports to the U.S., so it's retaliating, announcing a 34% tariff on American imports. That sent a second shockwave through the markets. The Dow Jones got decimated, dropping 2,200 points, losing 5.5% of its value. The Nasdaq lost 962 points, or 5.8%, putting it into a bear market. The TSX plummeted 1,100 points, Energy and mining stocks were hit in Canada. Alberta's Baytex Energy, which produces crude oil and natural gas, sank 17%. Vermilion Energy took a 15% dive, and Secure Waste Infrastructure also lost 15%. Those are your business headlines from the BNN Bloomberg Newsroom. I'm Morella Fernandez.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
The tariff turmoil on the stock market is taking a toll on everything from retirement savings to tax-free accounts.
CTV's Beth McDonnell spoke to everyday investors to get their reaction to the market meltdown.
The enthusiasm of the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange could not stop a second day of markets plunging around the world. In some places, it's been the biggest sell-off since the early days of the COVID pandemic, all to the dismay of millions of people saving for the future.
It'll have me work at least 1, if not 2, if not 3 years longer.
On the streets of Toronto, the strange, new, and uncertain reality of U.S. economic policy is starting to sink in. There are people trying to come up with a personal finance strategy.
I'm feeling concerned, and I'm in touch with my financial planner. I'm retired, so I depend on income from my investments.
Hand in hand, this couple is thinking beyond the next 4 years, trying to stay positive.
We haven't checked because we don't really want to know, so we won't get disappointed.
We're not very happy what's going down south. It's affecting us in so many ways.
And while the volatility is jeopardizing investments, others are eyeing new opportunities.
The companies that I buy in, I think, are solid companies, and they'll bounce back. And really, I should buy more now.
The market goes down and goes up, it goes down. It's actually a good time for us to buy because in a couple of months, years or something, it will go up anyway.
It just seems to be escalating further and further. This is obviously not what we want to see as investors.
This financial advisor is watching to see if the U.S. will lower interest rates to improve conditions. Like U.S. tariffs, the impact of global market slumping will affect both sides of the border.
What are these tariffs going to do to jobs going forward? And if it is as bad as perhaps the market it thinks it is, maybe the Fed actually starts to cut rates a lot sooner than was originally anticipated.
Many are hoping the losses are only short-term pain.
I usually get the emails from the bank saying, wait it out, you're playing the long game. So hopefully having some of those investments for retirement, I'm still a few years off.
I think if you can't stay calm and move on, you're going to go crazy these days.
Holding on tight for long-term gain. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Cute pup there. Meanwhile, trade tensions are impacting a long-awaited product launch in the video game industry. Nintendo this week revealed the full details on its Nintendo Switch 2. Pre-sales were supposed to begin next week. Nintendo now says it won't start accepting orders from the U.S. until it assesses the potential impact of tariffs and evolving market conditions.
And the U.S. has once again delayed a deadline for TikTok to sell its operations to an American buyer. The video-sharing app was set to go dark tomorrow after an initial reprieve when Donald Trump first took office. The TikTok ban was passed under the Biden administration as lawmakers cited security concerns over the social media app's Chinese ownership. TikTok rejects those claims. Trump says his administration is working with TikTok and China on a deal. Just ahead, art in unexpected places. We explore a hidden gem under the Gardner. The story behind this mural, free to discover at the Bentway.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
We leave you tonight with a closer look at a hidden gem at the Bentway that is free to the public.
A set of murals is nestled under the Gardner as part of an art exhibit focused on the future of our city. CTV's Jessica Smith explains.
Art accessible for all.
We need to have these places of beautification. We need to be able to share and communicate visually, auditorily.
Memory Work by Memory Work Collective is a set of 12 murals, each featuring portraits of imagined futuristic women and community leaders.
It really focuses on the future of our city through the perspective of really awesome women and cultural leaders here in the city and thinking about the future.
Located at the Bentway under the Gardner Expressway off Strawn Avenue, the larger-than-life art exhibit has been in place since 2020 but has seen a variety of iterations since, as our cultural landscape continues to evolve.
I think it is a privilege to be able to think about the future and feel like you can have action towards it.
The hope is that the space will continue to be reimagined and inspire future generations of community leaders.
As we're going through even harder times, that need to come together and think about our collective well-being is more important than ever. And I think when I look at these women on the panels, I think about the vision and the future that they have, and it just brings a sense of hope to the city, which I think is so needed.
You can also call in to listen to the research that went into creating memory work at 1-855-910-2050.
There's also a digital component to Memory Work. You can go to their website, memory-work.com, or scan the QR code for a soundscape to listen and continue to learn. Jessica Smith, CTV News.
One of many things to do this weekend. How's the weekend looking?
Well, tomorrow we've got some wet weather moving in, but I don't think it's going to dampen the weekend entirely. Here's a current look at the satellite and radar. This is how this system is set to play out. Mainly unsettled for your Saturday morning. Some improvements in the afternoon. Chance of some showers for Saturday night. There's your high, 12 degrees for tomorrow, so still quite mild. It is going to be a little bit cooler as we make our way into the day Sunday. However, sunshine is the trade-off. Cooler still, however, for early next week. A little taste of winter again for Monday and Tuesday with a chance of flurries. Sunshine again, though, by next Wednesday. Michelle and Nathan.
Thanks, Lindsay. That's it for us, but be sure to join Heather Butts tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with your next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here, thanks for watching and have a great night.